No, greed is not good.
It's the game is called Yes to Everything.
Shit. Yes, greed is good. Greed is not just good, greed is great. Greed means that you get ahead. Greed means that everything else doesn't matter. Greed means that you take what you want, no matter what. If somebody else suffers, it doesn't matter because why? Greed is good. You're getting what you want at the cost of climate, at the cost of suffering of other people, at the cost of amputations. Yeah, there's some people that think greed is so good that they don't care if other people have to contribute their limbs to make sure that that greed is satisfied. That's how good that greed is. Yes, greed is so good.
Of course. Imagine, let's go back 200 years to like the beginnings of the steam revolution and the industrial revolution. And if you were to ask that question, is the human mind limitless, during the industrial revolution, you would have to say yes. I mean, look at how we've gone from steam to electricity to, nuclear, hydrogen, other types of fuels. We have to assume, I mean, our trajectory has been going like this on an upward curve, and there has been no stopping it. And we have continued to create tools. I mean, it's all about the tools that allow you to create other things that haven't been thought of before. So now we have a mess of tools, especially these new computer and AI tools. So we have unlimited potential.
Picture in my head a president. And what does that person look like right now? Well, right now, we're looking at a career politician who is disconnected from the industries that Americans care about. I'm thinking about a person who is so wrapped up in institutional corruption and all of the blockages that limit American politics. And I can think of someone who escapes that framework, and that is without question Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. If we consider the career of Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, we see the trajectory that The Rock could follow. We go wrestler, we go actor, we go politician. And why is this such an effective trajectory that has worked out so well for Arnold Schwarzenegger? Well, it is because through wrestling, you learn restraint and strength. Through acting, you learn empathy and emotion. And I think that mobilizing these skills as the president of the United States, as someone that audiences and the American public already connect to, I think he would prove to be an incredibly original and effective leader.
I think absolutely parents should be able to genetically design their child. And I think the question comes into play specifically when we're talking about things like genetic diseases, right? If you can remove, let's say, some kind of increased risk for any kind of disease, whether it's cancer or Alzheimer's, or something life-threatening like that, why wouldn't you? Is there not an ethically, a moral obligation to prevent harm in that sense, right? A lot of our diseases that humans come up with and are unfortunately afflicted with, there's this hypothesis that says that because they appear later in life, that let's say natural selection cannot root them out. And so we are constantly accumulating more and more late life diseases. And so if we were able to genetically remove them, why wouldn't we, right?
Yeah.
Ethically.
Yeah, I think that's a fabulous point.
Naturally, every parent will expect too much of them because it's sort of like, it's the same, I think the same way where, like when you get a new dog is when you grow up and you have your own life and you have all these things that you do in your life. You're always going to want what's best for your kid, ideally, right? So when you're raising your kid, you know everything that went wrong in your own childhood and things you would have changed about yourself when you were younger. Maybe you would be more social, maybe you'd be more exciting and go out and play. You're going to want that out of your kid, and you're going to forget that your kid is not going to be your kid is also going to have to make mistakes in their life, and they're not going to be perfect. So I think naturally you're just going to want what's best for your kid, but by doing so, you're going to expect too much of them. And I think that'll just lead to kids being, I guess not a disappointment necessarily, but they're not going to be living up completely to the standards of what parents are looking for. So I think, naturally your parents expect too much of you.
Okay, well, then I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of acknowledge what you're saying.
Yes. I don't know what they're going to call her, Jamie Bond. I'm not sure, but yes, she should be a woman. Let's explore the other side of things. What this does is it will create an atmosphere so that we can expand the character into different sides. We can explore what James Bond has always done, has been a representation of a certain thing of that time. So he was a womanizer back then. He's more of a singular sort of capable guy now who was in love with a single woman. And now let's explore the other side of that as a representation of who we are. And that's, I think, the best of what fiction can do, is show us who we are. And women have been underrepresented in this kind of a realm of the action star, of the woman who will save the day, who So let's explore that side and see what they come up with, see what it can reveal about us as humans.
Well, of course, revenge can be the right thing, because without revenge, people don't learn their lesson. I mean, what is a prison system if not a glorified system of revenge? You broke our laws, so we are going to put you in a cell so that you learn your lesson. Revenge is a deterrent technique. It stops people from doing the wrong thing in the first place. And it also is because they're afraid that people will take revenge on them, and then they'll be the one who suffers in the end. And revenge is also a technique to enforce upon people not to do something wrong again in the future. I mean, if you make your child sit on the timeout step because they stole a cookie from the cookie jar, that's revenge. You're taking it out on them because they did something wrong that they weren't supposed to do. And if they sit on that timeout step for a minute or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however much revenge you want, that will teach them a lesson not to do it again. And that will stick with them much more than a word saying, "Oh, don't, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that." No.
Now, anyone who knows me knows that I am a tremendous fan of balanced nutrition. And if I were to choose just one invention in all of human history that has balanced out our nutritional palette, what would it be? Would it be the Canada Food Guide? Certainly not. Would it be contemporary cooking methods? Absolutely not. I am looking at a classic. And that classic, without a doubt, must be the sandwich. I argue that the sandwich is the greatest invention of all time because at once it channels carbs through bread, it channels protein through meats or substitutions, vegetables, flavor, all in a sort of handheld package. I think that this is an easily accessible meal for so many people. I think we see it come up over and over again across cultures, which proves they must be doing something right. And it's healthy to boot if you do it correctly. And so I argue that from a cultural, nutritious, delicious perspective, sandwiches are the greatest invention of all time.
Excellent. I'm glad you
Thank
didn't
you very
leave out
much.
delicious.
But of course you should punch your bully in the face. I think my parents included, they do tell me, or they told my brother, I think, if somebody bullies you at school, make sure, or if somebody physically bullies you at school, make sure you physically bully them back. And I think there is some truth in that, because no matter how hard the school system punishes them, no matter how hard they suspend them, no matter what they do to them, they're not going to physically punish the child. And I think what's really important for a child to learn is that there is fairness in this world if you are willing to seek out this fairness for yourself. And I think if they get suspended for a week, a month, it does not matter if they do not get physically, bullied the same way that you were. And I think for a child to learn this, and for the child to know that they have power in themselves and that they can use their body to inflict, the same amount of punishment that they experience, I think it's really important for children to learn that, they have this power within themselves. So yes, of course, you should stand up to your bully and even punch them in the face.
I'm really having a hard time figuring out whether you actually mean that or not. Do you actually mean that?
I'm not sure. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I just thought yes.
You
So
haven't
I
thought
have
of it.
to.
See, that's the power of debating, ladies and gentlemen. That's the power of debating, because you really had me going. I thought, wow, your parents encouraged you guys to fight back, and all of your debating arguments were solid. You had me believing.
I think definitely. I mean, look at what humans have done to the world, right? I mean, it's not only a question of would it be better if humans weren't in charge, but the question is, when will humans finally not be in charge, right? I mean, I think a lot of us look forward to the day when we can maybe turn things over to a higher intelligence, maybe an AI intelligence. I think, we see a lot of this sort of negativity from, as this picture shows, of the negative consequences of AI and how it can all go wrong. But I think there are a lot of instances that we see, for instance, in Star Trek, for example, where AI really gives us a way of organizing the world that we would never have thought of, or it turns over decision making to something that can make decisions rationally and reasonably, and not, for instance, politicize all of our decisions, or be guided by emotion, or be guided by our own sort of hangups.